would you please join me in welcoming Aaron Bolding?
Hey everybody, and welcome. Thanks for joining us at the Sports and Fitness Tech Summit. It's full service. You get comedy, you get music, you get food. It's going to be great. The name of this panel is, Does Sharing Help Keep You Fitter? For those of you in a hurry, the answer is yes. For those of you who are going to stay, we're going to examine that a little bit deeper. We've got a great panel we put together here. We're going to answer why is that true. We're going to attempt to answer why that's true. So we've got a great group of folks here. By way of introduction, my name is Aaron Bolding. I wear many hats. That's one of them right there, senior editor at Buzz Media. I do a little media content consulting on the side, but today I'm your humble moderator. My background is in video games, where competition and sharing is kind of happens a lot. So that's what I'm doing here today. But we're going to introduce our panel. They're each going to take a couple minutes to introduce themselves and their products. Some of them have very special things going on today. So with that, we're going to go right into our, our big guy of the day, James Park from Fitbit. Please, let's have your introduction.
So, hi, my name is James. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Fitbit. We make wearable and non-wearable health tracking devices. So up till today, we've really focused on, I guess, what you call clip-based tracking devices, so the Fitbit One and the Fitbit Zip, which track things like your steps, calories, distance, your sleep quality, stairs, and other aspects of your activity and sleep. Today, we announced the Fitbit Flex, which is our first wrist-based product. And the reason we launched this product is, a lot of people, there's really no one-size-fits-all when it comes to tracking devices. A lot of people have preference. They don't want to show off the fact that they're trying to lose weight or trying to get fit, so something more discreet works. And other people, they like the form factor of something on the wrist and wanting to show something off. So, that's what we're announcing today.
All right, very good. Next panelist from Runtastic. Let me make sure I get that right. Josh Schaefer.
Thanks, Aaron, and congratulations on the launch today, James. So Runtastic, I run business development for Runtastic, and we started in 2009. We're a European-based company. We're a leading developer in mobile apps, and we launched hardware last year. Our core app is a GPS-based app for running, biking, and we've also created an ecosystem of apps. We have apps ranging for things from like heart rate, strength training, and of course, pedometer as well. Also on runtastic.com, you can get a full overview of your analysis of your activities, as well as communicate with friends and cheer people on, which we'll share a little bit more on later today. And then also our fitness hardware pulls in everything together. If you're using a GPS watch, a Bluetooth, a heart rate monitor, you're able to grab all that data and provide additional value there. So 2013 is going to be a really big year for us. We have more apps coming out and additional hardware. And it will be available here in the U.S. hopefully by the end of Q1. So a little bit about Runtastic.
Cool. Thanks, Josh. Next, from MyFitnessPal, Albert Lee.
Hi, everyone. I'm Albert. I'm one of the co-founders of MyFitnessPal. And one of our primary mission is really a simple one. We want to make good health attainable and sustainable for everyone. And the primary way that we're doing that today is through a very powerful set of nutrition and exercise tracking tools that we've made available across a number of different devices and platforms, and really supported with one of the largest communities dedicated to improving personal fitness, with over 30 million total members. Cool. More specifically, there are really three kind of major components of our service. The first is when you sign up with us, we'll set you up with a personalized plan that'll include diet and exercise. And we give you some really easy to use tools to allow you to track everything that you eat, track your activity, and help you adhere to that plan over time. A second piece is we really encourage our users to set their own custom goals. So we also have a goal tracking feature so you can set your goals and track your progress towards those goals over time. And finally, and this is probably the most relevant piece to the conversation today, we try to make it really easy for our members to connect with their friends, to connect with their family members, to connect with other members of the MyFitnessPal community, maybe their personal trainer, to get support, motivation, advice, knowledge, or anything else that they really need to ensure that they can be successful in achieving their goals. That's it.
Very good. Thanks, Albert. And last, and definitely not least, Rich Schmelzer from GeoPals, please.
I'm Rich Schmelzer, GeoPals. I'm the co-founder and CEO. We focus on primarily kids, trying to get kids outside and playing, and we use games and other type of rewards to motivate them for getting to their goals each day. We have, for the younger kids, we have things like frisbees and hacky sacks and all the things that drive kids to be, getting outside and get motivated. But we also have like custom Amazon prizes where the kid can go in with their parents, set up a prize and set up a goal with their parents so they can, let's say, walk 1,000,000 steps to get an Xbox. And then finally, we have virtual pet characters, and the health of the character each day, they have to maintain a 10,000 step or 12,000 step a day goal so that that character stays healthy. And then they can play a series of games, unlock game levels inside of iOS games and on our website, so they get free playtime.
Very cool. That's like the evolution of Tamagotchi we were talking about earlier. In preparation for this, I got to know got to get close to a company called Achievement, and one of the things they do is a lot of the data that app makers like yourselves are collecting, they take that data and essentially enhance the value of it beyond anything that we've thought about up until now. So something as simple as someone goes to a gym, they check in, say, through Foursquare, that data is collected, and eventually what happens is, not eventually, but what happens is the data is shared with Achievement. They then take it, process it, make it anonymous, and present it to the healthcare industry. So pharmaceutical companies, doctors, equipment makers, things like that. And essentially what they're doing is healthcare industry professionals now have insight into the behaviors of the healthiest people among us. That you can actually see what the healthy folks are doing, how often they're doing it, and what the results are, things like that. And the reward system is such that Achievement is the one that rewards both the app makers and the users themselves directly through different types of incentives. And then at the same time, they now have this pool of data that's incredibly valuable to the healthcare industry, and so it ends up being a new type of model for what to do with all that data that's being collected. And specifically with the healthcare industry, it's as the Affordable Care Act provisions come online, you're going to have a different relationship between people in the community and their healthcare providers. So data has become more valuable. There's new ways to take advantage of it. And actually, a lot of the work that these folks are doing, people out there are doing in terms of collecting data from users, the healthiest people among us, is actually going to be translated to some pretty cool things. So I think right off the top, I want to talk about what are some of the tools that some of you all use to share or have information shared. They're proprietary tools or some of the stuff that's already out there. I mentioned Foursquare. Albert, let's start with you.
Well, to date, we've actually focused a lot of our effort on enabling sharing more internally within our own community. So, for example, one thing that we think has been incredibly beneficial to our members is that we have a very vibrant and active user base within our message boards and forums. And one of the early things that we did was we focused on encouraging people to share their success stories. And I think that was something that we didn't know what the response was going to be. Would people be really open to doing that in a very, obviously, incredibly public forum for other people to see? But surprisingly, we found that people were incredibly interested in doing that, and more importantly, that it served as a really strong sort of inspiration point for other members. And so, I don't know if that's necessarily a tool per se, but I think fostering that and really encouraging that type of activity has been very beneficial for our customers.
Gotcha. Josh.
With Runtastic, also we have a pretty strong internal community that's posted on runtastic.com where you can see how far you ran, you biked, you hiked, whatever it may be, and people can then, of course, comment on it or whatever they may want to do with that. But the most powerful tool for us has been the ability to share on Facebook, and also when you go out live using one of our apps, friends and family have the ability to like and cheer you on. So if you click on the like button, they'll get an automatic cheer in their headphones, and this is a really powerful and motivational tool that we found to be extremely successful for us. If you go on to runtastic.com, you can have many more options. You can do a Mexican wave, you can get an awesome, you can do all sorts of different things. If you're a power member or a gold user, you can also record your own motivational or own cheers to somebody and send them on. So that has been our strongest tool, and through Facebook and their Open Graph API, we've had a lot of success with that.
So the cheer functionality, that's real time. So I'm out running and my people are sitting in front of their computers.
Yeah, it's real time, so if you're biking or whatever you may be doing or running, you'll get it instantaneously. So it's pretty, the last mile you're trying to get done, it's a nice little motivational boost, and it's great to see then when you go back to the runtastic.com website, you'll see people saying, thank you for the cheers, I needed that, and it's just very inspirational. It's really pushing people to help reach their fitness goals.
That's way better than playing Rocky music at the end every time I do. Rich, what do you use to actually do the sharing?
Yeah, so sharing for kids is, it's difficult. We wish we could use Facebook and Twitter, but COPPA compliance prevents us from doing really anything. So in different communities, we do different things. With teachers, typically the teachers will open up a group on our website, and the kids, through username only, can see what the other kids are doing inside of class. And then we also, through our games, let them challenge each other through Game Center, Apple's Game Center, because we just can't do a lot with the data these days.
Yeah. We're actually going to get back to that, some of the difficulties with dealing with the kids market. But James, what tools, products do you use to actually do the sharing for Fitbit?
One of the bigger successes for us has been integration with Facebook. So on Fitbit, people can win badges for a lot of different achievements, daily step badges for walking anywhere from 10 to 50,000 steps a day. If you walk 50 floors a day, you'll get a badge saying that. I forget what the monument is. Maybe it's a Seattle Needle. But people feel a lot of pride in these accomplishments, and they really want to share it with their friends. And we see a lot of activity, either likes or comments, going on each of these badges that are shared on Facebook. So, it seems like a really simple digital thing, but it actually is really rewarding for users.
What sorts of information besides, I just finished a marathon, I did great, what other sorts of information have you seen people willing to share? Because it could go in the other direction as well, where someone feels like, I don't feel like getting out of bed today, someone make me feel better about it. Like, it could go a lot of different areas. So have we seen other types of information people are willing to share besides just their success stories? Go ahead, James.
We have a lot of ways for people to manually log activities. So people will be logging pretty much, they'll be using the site as almost a daily journal of what they've been doing. Whether it's household chores, other physical fitness activities, et cetera. So, I'd say there's actually a certain subset that probably overshares. But, I guess it's all good.
Gotcha. Albert?
You must have seen my Facebook feed then. Well, I think for us, we haven't had such a strong focus in terms of external sharing to Facebook. And because of that, we've actually seen that what people really respond to within our service are things like, sharing moments and experiences that they've had, sharing setbacks that they've actually had in terms of their progress towards their goals. And I think what's really important is there's a really good context within our service that is hard to develop outside of it, where that kind of openness can really be supported, and where the community is able to provide people with kind of very positive feedback in a way where they may not have been comfortable sharing that particular information to their broader Facebook or Twitter network.
Okay.
I think what I do see on MyFitnessPal is a lot of people using Ticker Factory in their forum profiles to share their progress.
Yeah,
right?
people absolutely. That's probably one thing that people are willing to share much more openly, which is making X% progress towards a specific weight loss goal. I think that's something that they know that their friends and their family will be really excited about, and something that they feel very comfortable sharing in a more open environment.
A little compartmentalization, that's good. Josh, have you seen other types of information besides I'm great?
Well, yeah, I mean, within Runtastic, at the end of a activity, you have the option of showing with emoticons how you felt. And so it's funny when you see someone with a bandage on their head, which is one of them, and it goes up on the website, then you'll start to see people go, oh, were you okay? And then it starts a conversation similar to what you were saying. And I think it's showing that people care and that they're paying attention to what you're doing. So that's one thing. But I wanted to also comment on badges, which James mentioned just a second ago, because we just recently launched badges within our fitness app collection, which are strength apps for sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups, and squats. And we had never done badges, but we found exactly that adults love badges just like kids. I was somewhat on the fence, but they really like to share those and show that their progress that they make.
Cool. That's actually a good segue into the different motivations in the kids market versus grown-ups. Rich, you've got some special insight into this. Kids aren't motivated by the same things in terms of fitness as grown-ups are. What are they into?
Yeah, I mean, these days, of course, there's the badges after they complete 10,000 steps or log 5 days in a row. They can send that off to their parents or their grandparents. But it's funny. It's at the end of the day, it's games. I mean, kids really want access to their games. They want access to their media. So we can do interesting things with Google televisions where we can unlock parental controls if you've taken a certain amount of steps per day. And that's motivating for them. They can actually watch television if they've hit their 2,000 step goal by 10 a.m.
And you can get down to what channels they can watch
Yeah.
and things like that through Android.
Correct. And same with their phones. So they, if a mom says you can't Facebook until you hit 8,000 steps, we can actually shut that feature off until they hit it.
Do you see different variations like during times of year? So summer, I would imagine, would be a big time where you'd see.
It's big, yeah. The summer, everybody's motivated to get outside, and what we're trying to do is coach them in the winter to say, take an extra 2,000 steps or do an extra 5,000 steps. So it's becoming interesting as far as that's concerned.
James, how much effort do you put into this idea of community management? In other words, to foster these discussions and get people talking about stuff that maybe they need a little extra kick to get the conversation going.
We actually don't spend that much engineering resources on those features. What we try to do is provide some very lightweight options and just let the community grow from there. So we do have forums. We have member-to-member private chat options, but I think we are more in the mode of putting some basic tools out there and seeing how the community responds, and then if there is something successful, really expanding upon that.
Are there any examples, any things you can point to where something came out of the community, came out of discussion that actually contributed to a product?
Yeah. So the notion of people were using the forums to have shared goals. So, for instance, people might say, hey, everyone on this forum for this weekend, let's all try to walk 25,000 steps or 30,000 steps. And they were trying to work around our lack of some type of collaborative group goal feature, trying to accomplish that in the context of a forum. So that's a behavior that we observed, and it's probably something that we're going to try to create some tools around in the future.
Sure. Albert, community management at all?
Yeah, so community has actually been a very important part of our service. And I guess some of the things that I would say is that, it's kind of easy to take it for granted that a community will develop if you put people together. But what we did a lot early on was we focused on just making sure that when somebody came to our community, that they got a response. So I think, we've all kind of been around the internet and gone on different message boards, and it's just like one message, nobody answered it. And so it's really important early on to foster that discussion. So commit yourself, commit a resource from your team to be in there, responding, encouraging people. And I think over time you start to get more, people who are a lot more committed to maintaining the community, and they can take over that responsibility for you. They become the ones, like James was saying, who are really kind of fostering further discussion and doing that type of thing. And the other thing I would say about community, if you really want community to grow, is that you have to dedicate resources to making sure that it's exposed in the right ways in your product. Because I think that's something that people don't necessarily do very often, which is, present it as a big piece of your service, and people will value it that way. So that's probably the only other thing I would suggest in terms of really developing the community. But it can be an incredibly powerful asset for your product, for your company. We've been able to leverage a community in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, presenting and delivering this stuff and actually doing the things from everything to the design and getting people to actually engage with your services, that's a very big deal. Josh, how does community work with Runtastic?
Good question. We actually are going to be increasing what we do on runtastic.com in the next year. which means forum. We're going to introduce forums and message boards, something we don't have quite yet. So really, right now, the interaction is someone's out there, you can cheer them on, as mentioned before, or you can comment on one of their activities. But one of the other things is community is a really valuable aspect. For example, a group's doing this, a Facebook group, private. A woman in Cincinnati reached out to us and said, the app's great. I really like this cheering function. I'm doing 13 in 2013, which means they're committing to run at least 13 races in 2013. Initially, it was 13 half marathons, but now it's just races in general. And so she reached out to me and asked if we would like to be a part of that, and I said, absolutely. She goes, I think it's going to be a great way to really tie this community together. Obviously, of course, we'd love them to be on runtastic.com, utilizing our services there, but Facebook is, for us, such a powerful tool that there's communities there that use our apps and really like to share there as well.
That's a great story. Rich, I'd imagine community functions work a little bit differently with your services. But one of the things you mentioned, one of the products you have is for fitness instructors who can manage and see the progress of up to 500?
Yeah, so we work a lot with schools, as you can imagine, specifically in the 5th and 6th and 7th grade. And they typically will have one wellness provider that looks over the entire group. So what we do is we provide an app for that wellness provider so they can see up to 500 kids within the app and see leaderboards within it. So they kind of know, where to call somebody out and say, I saw you get 2,000 steps a day. Normally you're at 18,000 steps a day. What can we do? So it opens up a communication channel from the teacher to the student, or the parent to the kid, or the wellness provider.
Right. But it stays within that smaller group. It doesn't go out to any.
It can't be posted out.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the challenges that actually come with, and how you've overcome them. The challenges of having to work with youth, I guess.
Yeah. So what we're kind of having to automate the coaching function, so that if we see a kid every day at 10 a.m. he's at 2,000 steps, and every day at 12 he's at 5,000 steps. We can see that in the database, and if we notice that he's dropped off, we can start to send in-app messages to that kid and say, hey, what's going on? They can then annotate it and say, look, I broke my ankle, or I'm sick today. And then we don't bug them anymore. But our little character kind of, pops up little messages and tries to encourage them along. So we can't do that through, a community, but we can definitely do it through our virtual characters.
So lots of just direct to the user communication.
And that can be not just database driven, it can be through the parents. Since the parent has the app, they can actually see the kid's activity and send a message directly through to the kid, but the virtual character speaks it to the kid.
Okay. That actually leads into this idea of how do we balance this idea of sharing versus privacy? I mean, you're obviously think about it, I think, a lot differently than everyone else does, but balancing, getting the word out versus, hey, I don't want anybody to know everything. Do you have any particular approach to that, James?
I have to defer on that one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll answer that, actually. So that's something for us that we have to be really sensitive to, right? I mean, we've all been talking about, not every person is comfortable sharing things broadly, particularly to these external social networks. So, what we focus on is just making sure that people really understand what's happening. Mm-hmm. So, when we are going to give somebody the capability to share something, they know that that's there, and that they have the possibility of turning that off. It's really simple. Just make sure people have the controls and let them kind of govern what they feel comfortable sharing. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly, people, will opt in. A lot of people will just decide, yeah, I'm going to just tell the world, here, I'm trying to lose 20 pounds, and here's how I'm going to do it. But you have to make sure that they understand the process and what's happening.
Sure. So you find that once they cross that barrier to be part of the community anyways, it's all open. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a lot of privacy controls on our site, and most of the options are set to pretty much friends only at the start. And we do find, as Albert said, that a lot of people do turn it off, but the most important thing is providing those options as well. I think, especially when we launched our Wi-Fi weight scale, body fat scale, people were really concerned that their weight and body fat would just be automatically broadcast out to Twitter and Facebook, and we had to do a lot of reassurance that no, that was just an option. If you found that to motivate you, that you could choose to do, but otherwise, that information was staying, pretty much locked within your own profile.
Very good. balancing sharing versus privacy.
Yeah, Albert said it, I think best, opt in. Make sure they have the option to opt in. Instead of just automatically having things posted to Twitter or Facebook, let them decide that they want to do that. Certain cultures aren't as apt to share as others, and so you really have to be sensitive to that because you don't want to turn off people. And I think that's something that it's a little bit more of a headache or a process if you register with an email address than a Facebook account, but just give them the option to do that. And then, of course, on our own website, make sure they know where the privacy controls are so they can change those at any time so they feel comfortable.
Do you have an example of where you came up with a little bit of trouble not respecting cultural boundaries?
Yeah, I mean, so we're based in Austria, and we changed the app screen once, and there was really a very small remind me later, and our German users didn't like that. It was not big enough, and they wanted to be able to just use the app anonymously instead of having to log in. So, just a small fix, and that was changed. But it's really being sensitive to other cultures, especially as you localize an app and you grow internationally as well.
Very good. Rich, balancing privacy versus sharing, that's a huge concern for you.
Yeah, it's obviously, since we're a children's product, we just have to make sure that the teacher, wellness provider, or parent has the username and password of the kid, and that's the only way that they can share any data out, and that's all COPPA compliance allows us to do. But I do agree that the families, if the mom wants to post out the family steps for the day or their health score, we're seeing a trend towards that because they're proud that their family's out and they're walking together and they're having fun together. So we are seeing when the mom downloads the app where she can see the kids, they are going to start to post that data.
Okay. What is the recent change in federal law you just mentioned that happened that changed how you operate?
COPPA compliance, FTC just came down pretty hard on every game developer about information that they can post out. So pretty much they're just putting the screws on that. So COPPA compliance, what was it, 2008? Does anybody remember? They've just adjusted the rules to make it even stricter. Because kids were sharing too much information from the free games that they can download at App Store. And I actually agree with what they've done, and we fortunately comply with the new guidelines.
Gotcha. Josh, you mentioned the story about the one from Cincinnati running 13 races in the year. Are there any other success stories like that you've gotten from the community, like from their activity where you got something from them and said, hey, this is something we should incorporate, we should include in the product going forward?
Well, yeah. One of the biggest ones was a MyFitnessPal integration. Yeah, we see that. We saw that a lot, and they want to be able to have a nutritional aspect to all their fitness goals. So we were a partner in. This isn't a promo, by the way, but we were an initial partner with MyFitnessPal. But that was just user feedback. I know they also ask us about Fitbit and other partners as well, and it's being sensitive to what they want because they want those other items to be part of their total health and fitness profile, and give them the tools then to be able to broadcast that out, which we already do.
Gotcha. Albert, do you have a perspective on that?
I actually do. It's for the family side, we actually integrate with Fitbit as well, and so the moms and dads are using the Fitbit product, and the kids are using GeoPals, and for that family to be able to see their entire health score, the daily activities, and being able to compete over the dinner table, not on Facebook, but basically talk about, how'd you get so many steps today? We found that's a great social aspect for the family.
Great. Do you have a perspective on the partnership you just mentioned?
Yeah, so a lot of the partnerships that we have had with Runtastic and also with Fitbit have actually been designed around making the process of tracking really simple. So the last thing that people want to do is have to enter their information into multiple different places. And so through these integrations, the most important thing is the sharing of data. And what we hope, I think, in the long term is really going to bubble out of this is that you're going to start to be able to see some insights and some correlations around, how does my activity affected by my nutrition? How is my performance? If you're talking about like fitness and athletes, I think that's the thing that we see a lot on our site is people who are really interested from a competitive basis on achieving faster times or finishing races, and so kind of combining a lot of this type of information together, we think is really going to hopefully open up a lot of interesting insights that we can provide to people in terms of helping them towards those goals.
Gotcha. James?
I would say that one of the biggest things that our users requested was integration with MyFitnessPal. So when we launched that, I think it was fairly successful. But it's also been interesting to see, as you start to merge data from different sources into one location, there's a lot of growing pains as well. So for instance, right now, one of the challenges that we together have to solve is just the notion of, I think, base metabolic rate, and making sure that people understand what that is, how that works on Fitbit, and how that works on MyFitnessPal. Because right now, I think there's just various different ways that our sites interpret that.
I mentioned at the top in discussing achievement, what to do with this data that's being collected. You touched on it just now with how to bring it together, because different companies have different ways of measuring different things. What do you think? What's the road ahead for this concept of sharing this data, not just within the community for each of you, but in terms of taking it to other sectors? Go ahead, Josh.
That's a really good question. We don't have an open API, and we pick and choose our partners rather carefully because we feel like the B2B, it's pretty hard sometimes to make things match up and fit right within your profile within our site. But it's really important, as we know, because there's so many opportunities within the healthcare industry that I've had people say, hey, we used your app, and our healthcare provider said this was a great way to be able to show that you're active, and you'll be able to save some money. So obviously that's a really key focus for us. It's for us right now. However, for us, it's getting some more new apps out there, get our hardware ready, and making sure that it all makes a lot of sense, so you can track everything and you can get detailed analysis, and it makes sense. As we talked about a little bit earlier, it needs to be simple and defined for every user to understand that.
Gotcha. Albert, you mentioned that tracking people's diet. That's a big part of what you guys do. What do you think is ahead in terms of what to do with this data you're collecting?
Well, I think what we are trying to do is really understand the patterns. So, for example, with 30 million plus members, we're starting to see a lot of data on what do successful people do, and we think that by really trying to understand their particular diet, the types of things that they're eating, that we can use that for other people who may be in an analogous situation and say, hey, here's what people who are like you, who are in a similar situation to you, are doing to be successful. Is that going to happen tomorrow? It's probably still a little bit of a ways off. But I think that's really the power of a lot of this data that's being accumulated is, you are going to be able to see patterns that haven't been easily accessible before. And hopefully you're going to be able to provide advice and insights to people in a way that's really personalized, because I think that's probably been one of the big challenges in health and fitness is that, you get a lot of advice, but it isn't really that relevant to you. And there are tons of different tips, and we've all seen there's a lot of different things that people are recommending. And so the more that we can personalize this stuff based off of the data that we see, I think the better chance that we have that we can actually help people be successful.
We both mentioned the healthcare industry. Is there any particular type of data that you see other sectors, other folks interested in getting? Are they most interested in training or diet like you guys do? Any particular kind of data people want to see?
Well, I think the most simple stuff that people want to understand is the caloric intake data that we have.
Okay.
That's something that I think a lot of people want. But more specifically, I think, now you've got this exposure to some really detailed level stuff in terms of your macronutrients, in terms of your sodium intake, and can we line that up with other data and correlate that to some conditions that this person might be seeing? We think there's a lot of potential there, so certainly people are interested in just that base nutritional data.
Gotcha. We're going to continue this, but we're getting close to Q&A time. If you have questions, there'll be a microphone, line up, but we're going to continue now. What's the future for this data that's being collected? All this great stuff you're getting, partnerships you have. Where can this data be applied?
As Albert mentioned, there's the automated ways of finding patterns for people, but I think there's also involving more human experts into the process as well. So as we collect data, I think we can share it out to personal trainers, nutritionists, doctors, and I think that adds a lot of value to the data to have a human expert able to interpret your daily patterns and your lifestyle. One of the most common activities that people do with their Fitbit data is actually print, for instance, their sleep graphs out and take it to their doctor and ask the doctor, is this normal, is it not? And it's kind of tragic because we think that we should all be technologically advanced and all these systems should be integrated together, but I think it speaks to the desire to share this data with the right people that prompts them to go to even the effort of printing it out, analog world, and trying to show it to the right people.
Maybe that's the future, is a way to collect all that and present it in a way that's actually useful, like from a big snapshot. Rich?
Yeah, the most common integration that we've seen is with corporate wellness, where they might have a disease management team, and they're looking to see if kids are obese or not getting enough activity, but they also want to look at the entire family, so they'll have Fitbits or various other devices, and now the corporate wellness group and actuaries can look at that family and figure out how to incent the entire family to get to that next step.
Yeah, lots of potential there. First question right here. Somewhere over here.
Hello, my name is Eugene. I'm from Microsoft. Yesterday I heard a panel where TV networks were talking about how they were using Facebook and Twitter to build communities around some of their programs. And after realizing a lot of the value, they decided that, they wanted that network back so they can have more control over that data. So long-term, short-term, it made a lot of sense to use some of these other social networks, but long-term, they realized the value and they wanted to gain control. So for each of your companies, how do you think about long-term when it's best to leverage Facebook and Twitter versus just building a self-contained community individually?
That's a good question. I spent some time at Electronic Arts, and a similar problem. Conversations around their products were just floating everywhere, and then someone got the idea, hey, wait a minute, we need to bring that stuff a lot closer to where we can use it, where we can monetize and do things with it. So how do you balance when to do what in terms of letting conversations about your products fly? Albert?
Well, I think if you look at it broadly, it's really about what is the context. So, for example, there's a lot of conversation that we've already touched on this point that's not really appropriate necessarily for those broader social networks, but there's a lot that is. So the way that we try to think about it is really how do we best serve our user? They have particular goals that they've signed up to achieve. So, in a certain case, that might be announcing more broadly to my entire Twitter network that I'm committing myself to some personal health goal. Or more specifically, it might be developing a second social network within my FitnessPal itself, where I can feel comfortable sharing really, really personal stuff about my particular journey. And then there's an in-between, which is the public forums that we've developed within our service and the community that we've tried to develop, and making people feel more comfortable sharing in a somewhat public environment, but one where the community's been fostered in a way that the messages will be well received and that people will be supported. And so, I think you have to kind of focus on all the different areas and really make sure that everything that you're doing is about driving user success.
James, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah,
balancing?
I think in a lot of ways it depends on what the goal is. So there's some pieces of data. Let's say you want a badge, you just want that widely disseminated, and the best way to do that is Facebook or Twitter. It's not necessarily our internal community, but there's other aspects where there are features that are just lacking on Facebook. If you can just comment and like that, people just need more specialized tools to achieve their goals. And I think in those cases, it's much more strategic for us to build that functionality into our core website and help our users that way. So I think it's dependent on the goal of the user.
Gotcha. Any additional questions? Someone right there. That is a common thing a lot of companies are seeing, is that hey, it's great, we've got so many followers here and there in all these different communities, and then a light bulb goes off one night. It's we need to keep that stuff.
Yeah, well, Facebook for us is a great tool to bring them back to our website. We try to put out as much high quality content there, tips and everything else. And same thing as we're launching a YouTube channel in addition to bring them back to our website so they can really be a part of it.
Yeah. YouTube is actually, ends up being an underrated social network. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Kevin Shelley. My question is just to anyone on the panel. Much of what you've talked about seems like it's user-donated information, what they're trying to do to help themselves. Is any of your work also in helping just with compliance with doctor-recommended things, where like they must have so much motion, or they must not have a range of motion after a certain therapy is done, or what is it? How much are you actually coordinating with your healthcare professional?
Whoever jumps first.
From the kids side, what we do is open up API to integrators and specialists that know what to do with the data and how to communicate back with the children or the wellness provider, so that they, so they make the recommendations. Because we're not wellness experts, we're just providing the data out to people who are.
Yeah, so for us, it's all about partnerships. It's things around medical issues and compliance issues isn't necessarily something that we would tackle directly ourselves, but we do make most of the data that our devices collect available through our API. So it's really about us working with the right partners in each area, whether it's rehab, whether it's compliance, et cetera, to build the right tools that use the data in the right way.
Very good. Yeah, that seems to be like that's going to be something that comes up. That's right around the corner, figuring out the best way to leverage all this data being collected. Any other questions? No? You don't want to find out how these guys are all excited to work together? Before the panel, they're all excited to meet each other and finalize how they're going to work together? Okay, then I think we've come to the end of the session. Hopefully we've answered a few questions, probably sparked a few more. So thank you for joining us at the Sports and Fitness Tech at the Does Sharing Keep You Fit? Now you know, it really does. We just proved it. For James, Josh, Albert, Rich, I'm Aaron. Thanks for joining us.